The biggest obstacle to Hillary Clinton winning the White House just might not be Donald Trump. It could be what most of you think about Hillary Clinton. Look at these numbers. 65% of Americans say no when asked if she's honest. And just shy of 6 in 10 doubt she's sincere in what she says. Because of those bad numbers, just about every speaker here in Philadelphia will ask you to take a fresh look, including her running mate.
These are tough times for many in our country, but we're tough people. And that's something else I learned from my folks. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. And they don't come any tougher or any more compassionate than Hillary Clinton.
Can she change this? This is like an albatross around her neck. She's been in public life for a very long time. When you've been in public life for so long, it's hard to change these numbers. And then she recently also had the FBI director essentially say, maybe she's going to get elected president, but she applied for a job at the FBI that involved computer use. I wouldn't hire her.
If you go out and talk to voters, Democratic voters who want to vote for her, who may actually vote for her, you hear this over and over again. They don't trust her. They feel like she is out for herself, that the Clintons play for different rules, and they've felt that way for a long time. How you change that perception, especially in light of what happened with the FBI director, I think is going to be a huge challenge for her. And it just underscores the fact that the Clinton campaign completely underestimated the legs that the email controversy had and didn't get ahead of it. When you show her comments at the UN press conference last year and line them up with what she said then throughout the year and what James Comey said, it's really damning.
And it's so interesting because we waited and waited. The big complaint from Trump allies was that he was not using the FBI director's words like he should be, pounding them every day on the campaign trail. He finally did that in his speech last week, and his advisors are hoping to keep him on a much more steady focus, to just keep driving that message to hurt her with those voters who don't trust her.
So she has honesty and integrity, call them character questions. She also has some problems on the issues. Yes, if you look at the national poll, she's a little ahead. If you go state by state, she's ahead in the path to 270, if you will, although, as I said, I saw some polling last week, at the end of the week, that suggests to me Trump is closing in, if not passing her, in some of these states. And then look at the issues. Look at the issues. Donald Trump leads her in our latest poll by 8 points on the economy. Almost always issue number one in presidential elections. Donald Trump leads her by 6 points on the issue of terrorism. Donald Trump leads her by 13 points on who would best handle ISIS. You see Hillary Clinton's advantages more broadly on foreign policy, on health care, on abortion rights and race relations. But if this is an election about the economy and security, those top three numbers suggest, Julie, that she comes into this hall with a problem.
It definitely does. I think what she has to hope is that voters in November look at this not as an issues election, but as a temperament election, and say that because things are so bad, because I do feel so anxious, I need to stick with someone who understands the system, who may not be my first choice, but I at least don't think would screw things up royally. Trump is a much bigger risk. That is essentially the fundamental question of this election, risk versus steadiness.
Trump. This election cannot be about Hillary Clinton if she is to win. She has to basically render him unacceptable. And if she does that, then she'll win. But it is, it's got to be tough for her. The reason why this race is still as competitive as it is, in large part, is because of her own negatives. Given Trump's historic unpopularity, this should not be that competitive of a race.
In addition to the security challenge, when you see her down 8 points in the economy, Trump is for change. I will change Washington. I'm against these trade deals. He's very muscular about it. He has not added a lot of policy about I'll do this in a minute. Although Ivanka added more. Ivanka suggested some policies, but we'll get to that in a minute. What is Hillary Clinton's economic message? If you had to put it on a bumper sticker, doesn't she have to? I don't know what she's for.
It's basically, again, it's what Jonathan's saying that Donald Trump is unacceptable. And the interesting thing about these numbers is there's already millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars in television advertising from the Clinton campaign of Democrats behind this, trying to define and brand Donald Trump. That clearly hasn't worked, at least as of this point, in terms of the economy. She has put a lot of money into saying that, he's not for you on the economy. He makes all his things abroad. She goes through a laundry list of all his tchotchke, if you will, that he makes other places, but no one cares about that. So that's the one worry inside Brooklyn.
Not sure they won't care about that when they start seeing ads in Ohio and ads in Pennsylvania.
But they've already been up, though, on the air. So the question is, will advertising work in this campaign like it has before? It didn't in the primary. Of course, this is a different audience here, but that's one worry that'll be in this hall. Is Donald Trump sort of, oblivious to or protected from all this normal types of
sort of the
advertising.
Teflon
And
candidate.
sometimes
Yeah.
we have been seeing really strange reactions to ads against Donald Trump. You know, at UCLA, they've been watching the differences and seeing a backlash sometimes when his voice is used in a pro-Hillary ad. So that'll be, I think, the most fascinating thing to watch this fall.
Right, it's interesting. Yeah, she has a long list. To their credit, the Democrats have been more specific on policy. You don't have to agree with it if you're watching at home. To their credit, they've laid out more plans than Donald Trump has. However, I just don't know if you're trying to put it under an umbrella. What is it? You know, fighting for you, on your side.
And
you don't get that from Hillary Clinton. But let me ask one other question about what's going to happen here. Bernie Sanders was the runner-up. You know, Bernie Sanders has come around and he endorsed Hillary Clinton. He said nice things. Donald Trump reached out to Bernie Sanders voters, and Bernie Sanders went on Twitter and essentially said, "Sorry, pal. You know, you sound like a dictator to me. You're not going to get my voters." That now, coming into this convention, you have this WikiLeaks thing about the DNC emails where it appears, if these emails are authentic, that a whole lot of people inside the DNC had their thumb on the scale to essentially help Hillary Clinton.
There was gambling in the casino, John? I'm shocked to hear that. Look, of course the DNC was for Hillary the entire time. President Obama was for Hillary the entire time. We all knew that. There was nobody who was actually supporting Bernie Sanders in the Democratic Party establishment. The problem is, though, they pretended like they were neutral.
Right.
And I don't get that. I mean, just be honest about what your preference is. We think that she has the best chance for us to win. We're for her. Instead, they played this game of saying that, no, you know, we're not taking sides. And everybody knew that was not the case, but they did that for an entire year plus. And now, lo and behold, we get emails that are exposing them, and so it's that much worse now.
So
And
the
the person
chairwoman
leading
doesn't
the
get
game-
to speak. They
Right.
denied her the right to speak, but you were at that event yesterday. She spoke before Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton praised her. That's poking the Sanders people in the eye.
Yes, and as soon as she praised her, there was a bit of a protest going on. So that is why Debbie Wasserman Schultz is not going to be speaking from that podium. It's extraordinary. The chairwoman of the party in a historic ticket, where the potential first woman president of the United States, the chairwoman of the party is going to gavel in and gavel out, probably in the middle of the night, because she would be heckled on this floor. She would be treated like Ted Cruz or worse on this floor.
and
So
it's also-
it's damning.
Yeah, it's also that I mean, I'm not sure we'll see, you know, people standing on chairs at this convention the way that we did last week and shouting, but it really, the timing of it to stoke the anger of those Bernie Sanders supporters who are really disappointed and felt like the system was really rigged against him
Well,
politically.
that's the point. The rigged system, I think, is really the key to this because Bernie supporters
message.
aren't going to line up with Donald Trump on a lot of issues. Trade, maybe. But they can line up behind him in the sense that the political system is rigged and we have to overhaul it.